Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Dhyavya. Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 28, Jnana Yoga, text 17 onwards. Amulam etad bahurupa rupitam manovacha prana sharira karma jnana sinopasanaya shitena chitva munirgam vicharatya trishnaha. Although the false ego has no factual basis, it is perceived in many forms as a functions of the mind, speech, life, air, and bodily faculties. But with the sword of transcendental knowledge, sharpened by worship of a bona fide spiritual master, a sober sage will cut off this false identification and live in this world free from all material attachment. So false ego, the shloka says it has no factual basis, amulam, but it's perceived in many forms, functions of mind, speech, life, air, and bodily faculties. This is how strong it is. The word bahurupam rupitam, perceived in many forms, also indicates that the false ego is manifest in the belief that one is a demigod, a great man, a beautiful lady, an oppressed worker, a tiger, a bird, an insect, and so on. By the influence of false ego, the pure soul accepts some material covering to be his ultimate self. But such ignorance can be removed by the process described in this verse. So how that ignorance is removed? By the sword of transcendental knowledge. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says the same thing. Chitva, cut it off by the sword of knowledge. And the sword of knowledge is sharpened by worship of a bona fide spiritual master. Now, worship of a bona fide spiritual master, it can also mean literally the worship, but real worship is following the instructions of bona fide spiritual master. So then he can remove it, he can cut off this false ego and come to his real self, come to know his real self. Jnanam viveko nigamas tapascha pratyakshamayate mam athanumanam Adiyantayorasya yadeva kevalam kalasya hetusya tadeva madhye. Real spiritual knowledge is based on the discrimination of spirit from matter, and it is cultivated by scriptural evidence, austerity, direct perception, the reception of the Puranas, historical narrations, and logical inference. The absolute truth, which alone was present before the creation of the universe and which alone will remain after its destruction, is also the time factor and the ultimate cause. Even in the middle stage of this creation's existence, the absolute truth alone is the actual reality. The rest everything is illusion, false ego. But absolute truth alone is the actual reality. Material scientists and philosophers are desperately searching for the ultimate material cause or principle, which is described here as calm, the time factor. The material process of cause and effect takes place entirely within a sequence of time. In other words, the time factor is the motivating impetus for material cause and effect. This time factor is a manifestation of the Supersoul, the form of the Supreme Lord that pervades and supports the cosmic manifestation. The method for acquiring knowledge is scientifically described here, and those who are serious, reasonable scholars will take advantage of the transcendental epistemology revealed here by the Lord. So, time factor, and so many so-called schools of knowledge, they talk about cause and effect. Cause and effect. Buddhist also, they talk about cause and effect. Oh, we believe in cause and effect. Well, what is cause and effect? Ultimately, Krishna is the cause of everything. Anade Radhir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karan. But they don't believe in that. So they say, oh, cause of something. Suppose I'm going through some tough time. That is the effect. And this effect was based on the cause. Cause was my bad activities, sinful activities. Now, because of that cause, I got this effect. And now in this effect becomes a cause of next effect. Now, what's the point? How do I stop it? What's the original? Where did it all begin? They cannot answer this. How do you stop it? Oh, you just merge into Buddha, merge into void, just follow Buddha. But how can everything come from a void? So much of variety, so much of life form, so many activities, so many elements. How can it all come from void? And how can all that end into void? This is what they say. This is a cause and effect. Cause is Krishna, and obviously we all came from Krishna. We all had a desire to enjoy separately from Krishna. That was a beginning of cause for our material life. We fall down in the material world, and then everything just goes on and on and on and on. How to stop this? We cannot stop the activity. We cannot stop karma, but we can make it a karma by engaging everything in the service of the Lord. So there is no more effects afterwards, no more material effect, material reaction. Yada hiranyasva kritam purastata paschatcha sarvasya hiranmayasya tadeva madhya vyavaharyamanam nanapadesha hamasya tadvat. Gold alone is present before its manufacture into gold products. The gold alone remains after the product's destruction. And the gold alone is an essential reality while it is being utilized under various designations. Similarly, I alone exist before the creation of this universe, after its destruction and during its maintenance. So Krishna is giving the example of gold. Gold is manufactured into many types of jewelry, as well as into coins and other luxurious products. But at each stage before manufacture, during utilization, and afterward, the essential reality is gold. In the same way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the essential reality, both the dynamic and the ingredient cause of everything. All throughout the material creation, the Lord is simply setting into motion his own potency, which is not different from it. So ultimately, it's Krishna only who's a reality. Before creation, during creation, and during its functioning and after its dissolution, only Krishna remains. Vijnanam etar triyavasthamanga guntrayam karana kare kartri samanvayen vyatireka tascha yenev turena tadev satyam. The material mind manifests in three phases of consciousness: wakefulness, sleep, and deep sleep, which are products of the three modes of nature. The mind further appears in three different roles: the perceiver, the perceived, and the regulator of perception. Perceiver, perceived, and the regulator of perception. Thus, the mind is manifested variously throughout these threefold designations. But it's a fourth factor, existing separately from all this, that alone constitutes the absolute truth. Okay, so let's see how it is explained. So everything radiates its illumination in pursuance of his original illumination. His light illuminates everything in this universe. As I described, the entire range of perception, cognition, and sensitivity is an insignificant expansion of the perception, cognition, and sensitivity of the personality of Godhead. So this is the functioning of the mind: wakefulness, sleep, and deep sleep. And further, it appears in three different roles: perceiver, perceived, and the regulator of perception. Just more technical knowledge, but ultimately the Supreme Lord, whose origin and who has the entire range of perception, cognition. Cognition means to understand, and sensitivity. Everything comes from him. Na yat purastadut yanna pashchan madhya cha tanna vyapadesha matram bhutam prasiddham cha parena yadyat tadev tatsyaditi me manisha. That which did not exist in the past and will not exist in the future also has no existence of its own for the period of its duration, but is only a superficial designation. In my opinion, whatever is created and revealed by something else is ultimately only that other thing. Again, very, very technical shloka. Although all material products, such as our bodies, are temporary and thus ultimately false, the material world is a real manifestation of the Lord's potency. The basic substance or reality of this world is the personality of Godhead Himself, whereas the temporary designations imposed by the conditioned souls are illusion. Thus, we consider ourselves American, Russian, British, German, Indian, black, white, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, and so forth. In fact, we are the marginal potency of the Supreme Lord, but by attempting to exploit the Lord's inferior material potency, we have become entangled in illusion. Everything should be properly defined in terms of the personality of Godhead, whose essential reality of this and all other worlds. So everything else is superficial, whatever we think we are, based on the body and this false ego. Because of the false ego, everything is superficial. Only reality is Krishna. Avidyamano api avabhasate yo vekariko raja sasarga esa brahma swayam jyotirto vibhati brahmendriyarthatma avikara chitram. Although thus not existing in reality, this manifestation of transformations created from the mode of passion appears real because a self-manifested, self-illuminous absolute truth exhibits himself in the form of the material variety of the senses, the sense objects, the mind, and the elements of physical nature. It appears real because it comes from the Supreme Real. Otherwise, there is no reality in this. The total material nature, Pradhan, is originally undifferentiated and inert, but later it undergoes transformation when the Supreme Lord, through his time agent, glances upon it and activates the mode of passion. Material transformation thus takes place and is exhibited as the Lord's inferior energy. In contrast, the Supreme Lord's personal abode possesses eternal variety. It is the self-luminous internal opulence of the absolute truth and is not subject to material creation, transformation, or annihilation. The material world is in this way simultaneously one and different from the absolute truth. So this is Achintya Bheda Bhetattva that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave. Material world in this way is simultaneously one because it's all energy of the Lord, but different because it's inferior energy. It's not the superior energy. And here, everything is, it's temporary. Everything is temporary, but we think it is real because it all comes from the absolute truth, Krishna. Evam sputam brahma viveka hetu parapavadena visharadena chetvatma sandeham uparameta swananda tushto akhila kamukebhyam. Thus clearly understanding by discriminating logic the unique position of the absolute truth, one should expertly refute one's misidentification with matter and cut to pieces all doubts about the identity of the self. Becoming satisfied in the soul's natural ecstasy, one should desist from all lusty engagements of the material senses. So one should desist from all lusty engagement. Lust means to try to enjoy this material world for myself. Natma vapu parthivam indriyani deva hi asur vayur jalam hatasha manonna matram dhishna cha sattvam ahankriti kham chitirartha samyam. The material body made of earth is not the true self, nor are the senses the presiding demigods, or the air of life, nor is the external air, water, or fire, or one's mind. All these are simply matter. Similarly, neither one's intelligence, material consciousness, nor ego, nor the elements of ether or earth, nor the objects of sense perception, nor even the primeval state of material equilibrium can be considered the actual identity of the soul. Soul is beyond all this and separate from all this. Samahita karaner gunatma bhir guno bhaven mat suvikt dhamna vikshipyam manar rut kimnu dushanam dhanar upeter vigate raveh kim. For one who has properly realized my personal identity as a supreme Godhead, what credit is there if his senses, mere products of the material modes, are perfectly concentrated in meditation? And on the other hand, what blame is incurred if his senses happen to become agitated? Indeed, what does it mean to the sun if the clouds come and go? A pure devotee of the Lord is considered eternally liberated because he has perfectly understood the Lord's transcendental personality and abode, and is always engaged in serving the Lord's mission within this world. Although superficially, such a devotee may appear agitated by events in the material world while engaged in the Lord's mission, this does not change his exalted status as the Lord's eternal survivor, just as the exalted status of the sun is not changed even when the sun is apparently covered by clouds. A nice example. Even though sun gets covered by clouds sometimes and sometimes clouds go away, the sun does not change. The position of sun is not changed. So similarly, the pure devotee, we are not at that stage. We get disturbed. We get engaged in the material activities. The pure devotee is not engaged. And although he may appear agitated, but he is not. It doesn't change his status. So many times, people question Prabhupada's some of the things, or whatever he went through before when he was in India and he had this pharmacy business, and his marriage did not work, and so many things. But Prabhupada is pure devotee, that's for sure. But looking at how he started ISKCON and how he led it, and then the books he has given. So even though at that time he might not look like a very pure devotee and might be going through some material issues, but looking at his whole life, we understand he's very, very exalted person. And he superficially might be engaged or agitated, but internally he wasn't. Yatha nabho vayam vanalambu guner gata gatervu vartu guner na sajjate tathaksharam sattva tamo malera aham mate samsriti hetu bhi param. The sky may display the various qualities of the air, fire, water, and earth that pass through it, as well as such qualities as heat and cold, which continuously come and go with the seasons. Yet the sky is never entangled with any of these qualities. Similarly, the Supreme Absolute Truth is never entangled with the contaminations of goodness, passion, and ignorance, which cause the material transformations of the false ego. The word aham mate here indicates the conditioned living entity who becomes manifest with the false ego of a particular material body. By contrast, the personality of Godhead is unaffected by the modes of nature. Thus, he is never covered by a material body and never subjected to false ego. As described here, the Lord is eternally infallible and pure. So he is Achyuta, always Achyuta, and always pure. Even though he might be performing his pastimes in the material world, but wherever he is present, that part is not in the material world. Just like day after tomorrow, now in India, I don't know when is Ekadashi. Is it today on 31st or on 1st? So
it's on 1st.
It's on 1st. Okay. So it's Bhaimi Ekadashi, but it's also appearance of Lord Varahadev. But since Varaha Dwadashi is there. Varahadev appears next day on Dwadashi. So, but since we cannot fast on Dwadashi because we have to break the fast because of Ekadashi, so we fast full fast on Ekadashi till noon, and then we continue with the Ekadashi fasting. But anyway, coming to the point of Varahadev. So we studied in his pastime when Varahadev was bringing the earth back from the deepest point of Garbhodak Ocean. He was bringing her back, and she was on the tusk of Lord Varahadev. And she asked Varahadev, where are you going to establish me? This Garbhodak Ocean is so huge, and this universe is so big. How will you find where you're going to establish me? Of course, for the Lord, nothing is impossible. Nothing is difficult. Just by his desire, he could have established earth. Wherever Hiranyaksha brought her down from. But Varahadev said, look up. Do you see looks like a piece of earth, but do you see some place there? She said, yeah. What is that place? Lord Varahadev said, this is Brajadham. It looks like piece of earth, but it's not. It doesn't belong to earth. So Lord Varahadev said, I'll establish you over there. So Braj and then Ayodhya and Jagannath Puri, Dwarka, these are all Dham of the Lord. They look like earth, a material world, but they're not material. Not at all material. They're all spiritual. The same here, wherever the Lord is, even that place, because the Dham comes with the Lord, where he's going to perform his pastimes. So the Lord is not material, even though he may appear in the material world. So similarly is it. And so are his pure devotees, his associates, his servants who come with them. They also are not material. They might perform pastimes as material people, but those pastimes are for the first one, for the pleasure of the Lord, two, for to act as a piece of motivation or inspiration for further devotees who will come in the future. So this is how this Jnana Yoga, material world, material body, material universe versus the Supreme Lord. I know it's very technical discussion, but it's part of Srimad Bhagavatam. So I guess we can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments. Okay, you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai